Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast. This is David Waldas here with Nick Musica. Nick and I were just chatting about receiving information and our journey of how that's shifted over time and really what it means to be intuitive and psychic, I would say, as well. I mean, when we're actually receiving, words or visions, I think it goes beyond intuition. I think I think people have comfort with the word intuition, but when it comes down to it, it's psychic, right? And that gets a bad rap too, because we think of, somebody with a crystal ball dressed up in some costume, and one of the things that's so funny about Nick and I, right, is we're like business people, we're like, right, people wouldn't look at us and go, I bet those guys are psychic. I bet those guys are doing spiritual work.
Yeah.
Right?
I bet that guy says he talks to animals and they talk back.
But it's also why people can digest it. It's why we work with high performers. It's why we work
Sure.
with, people that are out in the world doing big things, is we're not wearing costumes. And it's funny, like I remember when I first started going to psychic fairs, and working, and, I'd be there in like a polo shirt, or a button-up shirt and like dress slacks, and, the person next to me would be wearing like stars and moon, shawl and like a funny hat.
I will see them this weekend. Yes.
I'm like, there's somebody here for everybody, right? There's somebody here for everybody. And then, it evolves. So, it's funny when I first got it, like the very first experience, if you've heard my kind of origin story, it was I'd gone to a psychic fair on my 30th birthday, and she told me some stuff that was absolutely just blew my mind. And this was a pretty new world to me. Like I was always intuitive, and I'd played with tarot cards, and I was always really good at it. But I thought I just could read people really well. I just thought, it was like I figured it out in my brain. And and so one of the things she told me was that I was going to have this gift open up and really quick. And literally the next day, I was driving over to my realtor's office. And I was in the turn lane ready to pull in. And I'd been we were having problems with her, and she was like twisting stuff around. So we're like, we got to terminate this contract. And she'd been ghosting us for like a week. So I'm like, I'm just going to show up and take care of this. And I was in the turn lane, and I heard this really subtle voice, like barely heard it. Not now. And I ignored it, still in the turn lane, like all pissed off, going to take care of this. And then a little louder, not now. And I still ignored it. Third time it was not now. I was like, oh shit. Pulled out, drove home. Hour later, I'm sitting on the couch, and I hear, no. Just, like these are 1 word, 2 word things, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, that was unmistakable. Get back in the car, drive over there, open the front door to the realtor's office. She's walking in, simultaneously opening the back door, hands me the contract, we sign it, and we're done. And that was my first experience of just that precise word or 2 words that I needed in order to navigate the situation. And it made this whole thing real for me, unmistakably, right? And, I was laughed thinking about it, that I was like, oh my gosh, like I just have this guidance system now. Life's going to be easy. And I thought it was going to be, now I just navigate through everything. But our guides aren't here to help us on easy street. They're here to help us grow and work through our old shit and shed our old traumas and become the impact that we're here to become.
So you couldn't ask, like, here are the 6 numbers. Should I play it now?
Why don't you just ask for lottery numbers if it's real, right?
Now or later? Just say not now.
Yeah. and like I think that is a big misnomer for people, is that they, that our guides are just here to make our life easy. But they're here as growth partners. They're here to help us shed what we're not. And we all become a whole bunch of what we're not, surviving our childhood, surviving our adulthood, navigating all the stuff that the world throws at us. And we get further and further from who we are. And our guides help us come back home, align our will with God's will, align our will with the organizing energy of the universe. And when we do that, things flow a lot smoother. But that's not necessarily what it looks like, the process of getting back home to ourselves, that's usually a messy process. And so yeah, it's evolved a lot for me, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Nick, let's talk a little bit about how it opened up for you. Um, and at that point, I couldn't really feel energy either. I had some subtle awareness. Probably my third eye would activate a lot. My crown would activate a lot. I didn't know what it was, but I couldn't really feel energy in the rest of my body until quite a few years later.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up going to like Borders and Barnes and Noble and going to this little section in what was then in the bookstore of like, almost
Where
like
the dirty
self-help.
magazines are?
The one just beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah, different. Just beyond that. And so there was like self-help books there, and there was like occult books, and there was like Edgar Cayce books, and I would just flip through all of them.
Right,
So
right.
there was something about that was always interesting. And when my mother started to go into this psychic, I was like 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, God, it was when you get a license in New Jersey, you're 17. And I was like, I'm looking forward to going. I'm looking forward to making an appointment and driving and parking and like just all of it was
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw him quite a few times. He was super helpful. And there was one time afterwards I said, "Hey, Jim, why do I always feel stoned after we sit?" Because I knew what that felt like.
You're smoking.
I knew what that felt like.
Sorry, not being very helpful. Now I got you all stoned to look at their dirty magazines, right? That's not what my story is. Let me tell it. Sorry, go ahead.
What do they talk about today? So different. And he said, "Will you go deep into the meditation?" And I remember saying, "Oh, okay," thinking, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. And that was sort of like an isolated pocket for me.
Yeah.
And then, this is part of the reason why you and I met is in 2017, I was like, I'm going to figure out what's going on with these dreams. And for 20 something years, I would have what I've later learned, there was a label called clairvoyant dreams. And the closest thing I could describe it as, and it wasn't deja vu and it wasn't lucid dreams, is like, I feel like I'm time traveling. And that sounds crazy. But that's how it feels when something shows up. And it's nothing material. It's just, seeing a strange person on a strange corner in a strange city that you've never been in before. And then a day, a week, a month, a year later, you drive by that person on that corner in this city and you're like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. And I think it's a really almost more concrete way for the brain to describe what's happening rather than time isn't what we think it is, and
yeah,
that we can actually have premonitions of the future and all of that. It's like, what's the most practical way I can describe this to myself? And it must be pretty out there when time travel becomes the most practical way to to describe it.
I couldn't think of that was the most realistic way to think about it.
Yeah, I've seen movies.
And I didn't talk about it for a long time because it was weird. No, who would relate to that?
Yeah.
And then I remember sitting down with you and you're like, I think something's tapping you on the shoulder. And I was like, all right. And that's overly simplistic, but going forward and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. That's fun, and it's interesting. After that, I started reading tarot cards, right? Because that was the woman Sandy that opens up to me, and Sandy and I are still good friends. It's funny we were just messaging yesterday on Facebook Messenger, which is not an uncommon thing for us. It's great, it's 24 years later, and we're still in keeping in touch with each other. We're still friends.
Yeah,
it was monumental for me to have that shift. Like it's really was profound. And so, she was reading tarot cards. So I'm like, well, let me start playing with tarot cards. And it just started to become more real, right? Like I'd look at the cards and a certain part of the card would light up and I'm like, it feels like it's telling me something. And I would just start, I remember reading somewhere that they said, just start speaking and whatever comes to you, like you're telling a story, just tell it. And it'll feel like you're making it up, but tell it. And so I started reading for, some friends and stuff. And I'm like, and they'd go like, wow, how did you know that? I'm like, I just made the whole thing up. I just looked at the card and I just had a make-believe story and I told you the make-believe story and you're telling me it's real. Like, interesting, huh? And I kept developing that and I took a tarot card class and, other people in the class are going, okay, the 9 of Cups, that means this. And so, there must be something around this going on. And I'd look at it and I'd get a story and I'd tell people the story. And I was like, wow, okay, something different's happening for me. This isn't reading tarot cards. this is like there's some way they're communicating with me. And I came to the clear realization that really, what are tarot cards? Like, what is all the different ways, whether it's animals that we see or signs or omens or, license plates or numbers, like our guides are always trying to get in touch with us. And so when we give them a language to get in touch with us, a way to communicate, to me, that's what tarot cards always were. It was like, it's just a way for them to talk to me and to share information that I can help other people with. And it would get, some days it would be so clear, like I'd hear names, I'd hear, like I remember this one, so I started reading the tarot cards professionally. And at a certain point, I'd flip the cards, and it was really kind of my primer. It was like how I would kind of get into the
That's
mode.
funny. Yeah.
And one session I did, I flipped one card and talked for half an hour, and the guy's like, "You got all that from that one card?" And I was like, "I never flipped any more cards. It didn't occur to me." But it was making me think. These two young women came in, and they were like, "We'd like to get a reading." I said, "Well, do you want to do them separately or together?" And they're like, "Well, I guess together." I said, "Well, if you do that, just know like information comes through. And so whatever comes through, so if you have something you don't want the other one to know, if you have secrets back and forth, like do them separate. But if you guys are just open books for each other, let's do them together." And they're like, they both kind of got this weird look on their face. They're like, "Oh no, together's fine." Right. I'm like, "All right, you guys are in charge of that decision." And so the first thing that comes through is that I go, "Well, it feels like there is some kind of conflict going on for you guys. Something that, it's happened a couple times and you haven't really, like, you haven't addressed it." And I go, "And something about your trunk. Are you driving today?" And the girl's eyes get huge. I go, "What's the deal with your trunk? To the trunk to your car?" And all of a sudden she's just like, and they both like got these huge eyes and they looked at each other and they looked like they were going to get up and run out of the shop, which is what they told me they almost did earlier. But it turns out the one who was driving was a school teacher, and the one who was the passenger worked at a dispensary. And this was before pot was completely legal, so it was like a dispensary for, like, you had to have like a medical license and all that. And so she's like, she's like, "Oh, I gotta take a run. Thanks for picking me up." And brings out like, a couple pounds of weed and puts it in the teacher's trunk. And the teacher's like, "Can't drive around with a couple pounds of weed in my trunk. I'm a teacher." And the friend who worked at the dispensary was just like, "Oh, we're just going to work. Like, I don't understand." And so there was this conflict that was and so that they resolved it there. And she's like, "I'm a teacher. Like, this is so uncomfortable for me." Or maybe I said it, I can't remember, but it was so funny, right? Because here's this very pragmatic problem. They don't want to address it. And for some reason, sometimes I'll say, like, if you guys have secrets with each other, don't sit down together. But often I don't. It was just a guided piece. And so it all resolved right there. And she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'll never ask you to do that again. It didn't even occur to me that as a teacher, you shouldn't be driving around with a couple pounds of weed in your trunk." But it was just such a fun development of, what this looks like and how just confirming and real it is. And I think that when I was getting it for myself, it was fun. But when I started reading for other people and then getting things like that were so concrete, it was just like, okay, there's just no other way to look at this. Like, there's no way to misinterpret that, to go, "Oh yeah, so it looks like you've been having a challenging time lately. Oh, is your relationship been difficult?" Or, his work, like,
Yeah.
these vague things that people would go like, "What's in your trunk?" Like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll get both of those things. I've realized I get sometimes very specific things. Like, there was a young lady I was talking to in Australia. And when I'm talking to animals, I'll talk to the animal like typically on day one, then I'll debrief with the human on day 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I just type away. I see something, I'll just type away in an Excel sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really put it together until maybe until we're talking.
Because you communicate with animals ahead of time, right? Before you.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. And so the note I took was table, glass.
Mm-hmm.
That was the note that I took. And I was like, "So you have a glass table, or you have a glass on a table? There, what's going on with that?" And she goes, "Well, I broke up with my boyfriend about a year ago, and I got rid of everything from the relationship. The one thing that I've been hanging on to is the glass table that we bought together.
Nice.
And I've been meaning to get rid of it." And she came to me because she's like, "If I get a new couch, will the cat pee on this one like the cat peed on the old one?" Right? And so I'm like, oh, so that's okay. So get rid of the table. Okay. And tell me about the couch. What happened? Who sat on it? How'd you use it? Did you both sit on it? And she's like, no, he sat on it all the time. He lounged out on it. I was relegated to this little chair, and so I was sort of happy to get rid of the couch, but the cat peed on it beforehand. And I was like, oh, so the cat is really modeling like the behavior of how you should feel about this person. And you're almost there, but you're holding onto this table.
Yeah, that's great.
So I don't know if the cat's going to pee on a new couch, but I highly recommend you get rid of the table before you do that.
That's great.
Okay. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah, making sure you honor yourself.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
And so it doesn't look that way. It's like, oh, this cat's dishonoring me by peeing on my couch.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why you come in and go, let me make sense of this for you, because it's not a logical linear path. Like there's something more going on. And the fact that you bring it in unsolicited without any information, like makes it so real for people.
Yeah.
Right?
I talk.
That's always
a
big difference for people.
I talk to people and they go, hey, can you talk to my dog, my cat? Yeah. And then they start to go into it. And I'm like, I don't want to hear. If you want me to, great, but I don't want to hear anything about it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I would always be like, don't ask me a question. I'm just going to answer your question. Because if you ask me a question, then you're going to think that I'm just playing off your question. So don't ask it, I'll answer it.
And I've had that happen before. Like I've given animal communication readings with people I know. And I would just get on the line with them and go, hey, David, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it'd be like you just go through all the notes and like, that's that. This is not going to be fun for anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes it so much more real, right? And so, because at first I'd be like, why are you here today? What's going on? And I'm like, oh, it dilutes everything. And so then, I'd be like, come in with your questions and let me get a download first and share it with you. And if any questions aren't answered, then we'll address them then. And almost every time people were like, you answered all the questions. I'm like, okay, great. Like that's, and then it's just so much more real for people.
Yes. 100%.
Particularly if something that could be interpreted a little bit as vague.
Yes.
Like the table, like if she said first to you, like, oh, I'm thinking about getting rid of the glass table. Oh, you know what this is? Because this, and this, like, how do I believe that? How does that really make sense? Versus like unsolicited, I can say this now. And so good.
It's so fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it's interesting because, like I said, so there's that progression for me for, like, I'd hear like a word and I'd make sense of it. And then I would move to the tarot cards. And then I moved, where I stopped using tarot cards at all. Like I didn't even use them as a primer. I would just sit down, close my eyes and just wait for information to start flowing. And then I would just talk. And then, every once in a while I would hear words, but what it became is we called gnosis, where it was almost like a memory that was kind of just like I'd feel it in real time appear in my brain, in my awareness, and I would just know something or I'd see something, and it gives me a great amount of details, right? Because the difference between like having an experience like you're remembering a scene that maybe didn't happen yet or maybe did happen, the person lived through, but then highlighted in that memory what's important to talk about. And so that's how I receive all my information now is I'll feel it appear like a stream, and it'll be a knowing of some sort of like all this happened and here's what's relevant. And that's what I share now. And so it gives me greater insight into it. And then I'll also have a lot of the peripheral information. So if they have follow-up questions, I can talk about the experience because I have an awareness of the experience. And I also have an awareness of what's relevant in the experience. And,
that's cool.
It took a long time for that to develop, and it like I think one of the big things that really helped that too was moving out the blockages in my body, right? Because, and it's hard to say quite how that ties in, but I know that when I started to receive information and I started to do tarot readings and then I started doing them professionally, I ended up having to spend a lot more time meditating in order to get myself in that consciousness to be able to receive that information. And it was a lot of work to get there. And I remember so clearly, I was actually down in my basement. I mean, this was probably, 6-7 years after I'd kind of started doing this work. And I was meditating, and all of a sudden I just started feeling all this movement in my sacral plexus. And I was like, like, it was so crazy. And it was the same thing I knew, in my crown and my third eye, but all of a sudden I just started feeling it in my lower chakras. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is crazy. And now my whole body's like that. Like, I can feel every, like, they're all open and they're all clear, and I can feel everything with that, and the flow and the movement, and I really believe that helps me hold a higher. I know it helps me hold a higher frequency, but holding a higher frequency makes you closer in frequency to your guides, and means that there's less gunk they have to get through to get to you. And so it's easier to communicate. And so, like, tarot cards were great when I was too dense to be able to connect as directly. And then, like, it was just a highlighting on the card and a slight knowing. And then as I, worked through all the stuff in my body and continue to work through it, right? There's always a refining, a fine tuning, clearing out, that it becomes more and more available. And we're just vibrating at a frequency where we're actually becoming fifth dimensional, where we're becoming outside of that duality consciousness of the third and fourth dimension. And we're just able to be right there with the information. And then, it's almost like we can give ourselves the information because we're in a place where all the information's available.
Yeah.
And it's a really awesome journey. And each step of the journey was so fun, right? Like, if I had reading with Cindy, when I was 30, and the next day all of a sudden I had the consciousness that I have now, like, that would have been really, really spooky. And so, like, what does that journey look like? Well, the journey had so much value, and, like, these realizations about myself, and these, like, it was such a powerful journey, and continues to be. And, it can go a lot faster. And I see it with clients all the time, because we've been through this long, arduous journey, we're carrying the completed signatures of all that resolution, and we can help people go through it so fast. And they still get the fun of the journey, but, instead of it being spread out over 20 years, it's reduced. So, like it's miraculous how fast people can open up their intuition, their knowing, and their access, and their bodies, and the ability to feel and flow and be in a higher consciousness. It's by those terms, it's almost instantaneous by those terms. And then it continues to expand and expand and expand.
Yeah. I've found that the simple question, like when there's a group of people and they're sort of like on the fence or not believing about the whole thing we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, so who's had this experience?
Yeah.
Who's had the experience of you're thinking of someone,
mm-hmm.
and then the phone rings and it's them, or you get a text from them.
Yeah.
And almost everyone is like, oh, yeah, that's familiar. It's at the most simplest form. That's what we're talking about. There's this connection.
Yep.
And then it shows up.
Yep, absolutely. And
you can develop that. You spend with the meditation, the way that it became super clear to me was, Adelita, the young lady who said you're going to talk to animals, is going to be easy for you. She told me about like constant meditation, which I was doing off and on because of our work.
Yeah.
And then when the animals showed up, it was like, oh, they don't show up as much without doing the meditation. And I started to think about this. I went to Hawaii years ago and got a surfing lesson from Sonny Garcia Professional. And I'm just imagining life in Hawaii. And I'm like, I would surf like all day long, every day, right? Like that would be my life. Because especially as a professional surfer, that would be my life. And I asked him, like, you must surf every day. And he goes, no, I don't surf every day. I mountain bike, I go to the gym.
Yeah.
When the waves are good or when there's a contest coming, I get in the water and I'm doing the work there. And I was like, oh, there's training days and there's game days.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the meditation.
It's all play too, right?
Yeah. A lot of play. And so the meditation is the training. And then the game day is working with clients, working with animals, whatever it is. And that made a lot of sense to me.
And the meditation too, that's how I often receive information myself, is when I go deep in, I just know things. And same thing, like playing, like when I'm out running, I often get a lot of messages. I'm out hiking, I get a lot of messages. Mountain biking, not quite as much, I think, because depending on where I'm riding and how technical it is and how much my focus has to be on something very, very clear and very literal, like where my front wheel is and what's coming up. But like on a long climb, if I'm deep in it, like that's usually when I open up and channel, and it's easiest for me to receive information for me because I'm out of the way, right? Like my body's preoccupied doing something, and all of a sudden now I'm that channel's open, and and it's it's so fun, right? Like that idea of that's what we always say. It's so fun.
So fun.
Like that this is just available to us, right? And that's what when people come to us to go through one of the Aligned Living programs, right? They often come for different reasons, but that waking up, that intuitive, waking up that psychic ability, that ability to know and guide ourselves and to feel the resonance of what's right for us and what's wrong for us, that next right action and the clarity that comes with it, and the certainty that we get and what we're going to create in our lives and our path forward, and the ability to navigate it and continue to navigate it. That to me is like one of the biggest
Totally.
pieces to learn how to hold ourselves at a higher frequency where we're not in the gunk and we're not, you know, like one of the things that keeps hitting me is shit happens that upsets us, right? Like, we live in the same world as everybody else, sort of, but how fast we can recover. Like shit will happen. And I'll be like, "Are you what the?" And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, "Ah, do," I don't need to stay stuck in it anymore in the same way. It's like, "Oh, things are great." Like, didn't that just happen? Oh shit, I forgot that just happened. Yeah, it did. That was part of my day too, because that's part of
There's
our.
there's certainly an aspect of that. I'm tickled that aligned living was and is a fundamental part of how I got to where I am.
Yeah.
Because the idea of this is your energy and this is everyone else's or every other things or what,
Yep.
like, but having an ownership over your own,
Yep. That sovereignty brings clarity, and then from that sovereignty, we can have access.
my God. And just from a what is feeling what is mine perspective, there's a real sense of mine or not mine,
Yeah, absolutely.
which I don't think I think a lot of people get it confused.
No, it's they're a blend with the world, and no
Yes.
wonder they have no idea where they're going. I mean, and how do I know that? Because that's how I was, right? Like I didn't
Yeah.
have a separation. Like the world and I, we just blended with each other. We navigated together, and what does that do? It just creates more of the same. We're in the loops of gunk that the world's full of, and we go, "This
It's
world's oh my god, this world!" Like, well, what if that world's out there and we're in here and we could actually navigate free of it?
yes.
Not 100% free because we are in it, but our thinking, our clarity, our idea of what's right for us. And that's what happens, right? And so it's kind of fun to share about, what is that journey and what does it feel like? Because there's a cleanness, there's a clarity, there's like our body can just feel really amazing. You know, like I think about when I used to drink beer, even if just having a beer or two, like I wake up in the morning and it would just not feel good. Like you're putting toxins in your body. And then, like I was guided that needed to stop. And all of a sudden I didn't want it and it didn't taste good. In fact, it tasted awful. And thinking about it made me feel dizzy and uncomfortable and off. And so like we just fine tune ourselves. And when we're fine tuned, the world is, crazy wompy. And when we're fine tuned, we're having a different experience in the world. And does it take stuff from us? Absolutely. It takes a commitment to be fine tuned. But when we turn that commitment into service, and this is why I love the coach training, which is actually coming up on the 24th of November, if you still want to join in. When we take that fine tuning and it's a commitment to service, it makes it really easy for us. And it makes it because it's a prerequisite to what we're offering the world. And then us trying to keep ourselves in alignment, trying to keep ourselves fine tuned, like the awareness comes off of that and comes on. Oh, well, I just need to do that. I need to go for this run today, or I need to go for this walk today, or I need to not eat that, but I need to eat this, or I need to meditate today so that I can offer this to the world. And the byproduct of that is the clarity and the like how good it feels to be in our body, how good it feels to be this clear, how we can wake up every morning and feel great getting up out of bed. And bad shit can happen, and 10 minutes later we're just like, okay, all right, what else is going on today? And that's like that's
The,
all
the,
consciousness. That's
the
all an
bad
ability to hold a higher frequency.
and the bad shit and the challenges, they're going to keep on coming.
Yeah.
And this helps you get through it.
Yeah. It holds you in a different place, and it's not
Yeah.
bypassing it. Like we still
No.
deal with it. We still have to take care of it, but we don't need to embody it. We don't need to go, oh, somebody just said something to me. I'm going to take that and I'm going to beat myself up all inside with what they just said. Or I can take and go, oh, that's interesting that that's their perspective. Is there any truth in that for me? I don't need to attack myself with their words. But if we don't have a delineation, a separation between outer world and inner world, we don't have a choice but to attack ourselves with those words. In fact, those words attack us. But if we have that separation, we can go, okay, these words are coming at me. what am I going to do with them? Am I going to, just disregard them? Am I going to go, what's the truth in this? Or am I going to just take them and just throw them all on myself? And because I'm now the gatekeeper to this, I'm the gatekeeper to what comes in from the outer world. And that to me, like, that's the fence line tools. That's the sovereignty tools. That's been such a game changer for me to go, wow, okay, the world's throwing this at me. It's at the fence. What am I going to do with it? Because now I'm in charge. Am I going to go, yeah, no thanks, go fuck yourself? But not in a higher way. We're just going, I'm just not interested, right? The old person would be like, hey, yeah, fuck you. And the one's like, that's not very interesting to me. Or, oh, there is something interesting. There's something there I need to work on. Excuse me. Or, like, I'm having a bad day and that matches how I feel, and I'm just going to plaster myself with it and go, how'd that work out for me? And, walk around angry for a couple hours, get back into alignment and go, oh, that was silly. But human moment. Yeah. Okay, check. Got that one done for the day.
Yep. All that.
Awesome, brother. Well, great conversation, man.
That's fun.
So yeah, if you want some of this, if you want, go to our websites, nickmusica.com or davidwaldas.com. Of course, we have the coach training coming up on November 24th. And there'll be another, there's also the group programs and the one-to-one. So thanks so much for listening. And as always, have a great week. We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast. And if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.